own thing. Okay, and the bright example was one could get it from that the very moment of civil disobedience movement started in India. And in civil disobedience movement, what happened? He broke the law. He broke the law on that salt tax. And here that he questioned that how actually a foreign government exploiting the livelihood means of the colonies. So he also that um, allow that to them to picket liquor shops besides participating in the satyagraha. And women in this process, women, they had also played an important role in such kind of activities, where he advocated class, caste, gender equality, seeing equality and justice as the bedrock of a human and dignified society. Okay, so so you could say that a constructive program is about initiating certain kinds of actions which could be an unifying force for the Indian society. Because if you have gone across the writings of that India's independence movement, there were divisions about the interest of the participant, like the peasants, ତାଙ୍କର ଇଣ୍ଟରେଷ୍ଟ ଅଲଗା ଥିଲା ଯେ ସେମାନେ କାହିଁକି इंडिपेंडेंस मुवमेंट रे पार्टिसिपेट करथांते काहेकि जो स्वराज कथा को नेकी तांकर ओन आइडिया ऑफ स्वराज थिला सेमिति इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट मानकर तांकर अलगा कंसर्न थिला तेणु तांको गांधी जी को पई जेतेबेले कांग्रेस इंडियन नेशनल कांग्रेस चिंता करथला जे केमिति से मानकु आनिबो तो गांधी जो थॉट प्रोसेस रे सेथिरे से এই যে কনস্ট্রাকটিভ প্রোগ্রাম মাধ্যমরে সে appeal କରିଥିଲେ ଯେ every segment of the society how they could come together and act as a unifying force in mobilizing the interest of India. Okay, so and while coming to the question of citizenship, if you talk about the question of citizenship, so citizenship has already been viewed as a legal status uh, in Western liberal tradition. Okay, but in the case of Gandhian understanding that who could be a citizen, he took the positioning that the individual citizen is endowed with dharma and is the bearer of moral authority with the right and even the duty to judge the state and its laws by the standards of dharma, which in turn combine the essentials of satya and ahimsa. And as state is a soulless machine and individual is endowed with dharma that encompasses both satya and ahimsa. So here in Gandhian understanding, citizenship is a kind of virtue which needs to be exercised by conducting the duty towards the society, and where citizen is one who is also equally critical vigilant about the state activities. So I hope you are also aware about that the Greek thought that who could be citizen, like Aristotelian, in an Aristotelian understanding that those who are free individual, so they can be citizen because they are not fearing from any kind of threat, and they do have the ability to evaluate the role of the uh, government. So similar kind of thinking also seem to be persist if you want to analyze that how Gandhi viewed the conception of the citizenship, where he has given privacy to the a dutiful conduct. And what is this dutiful conduct? This dutiful conduct could only be exhibited by bringing self-regulation, by by taking positioning about the um, 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 that how state is behaving. So all these kinds of understanding essentially prioritized the duty dimension of citizenship rather than rights. So in Western liberal tradition, generally, citizen is something that who is a right holder, and this right holder, he is or she is enjoying on the virtue of getting a legal status from the concerned state. But here, Gandhi uh, essentially here providing a kind of alternative thought towards it, and though subscribing to the duty centered notion, he emphasized on that the dharma needs to be followed by the individual, and this dharma must be carried out with the principle of satya and ahimsa. And as a state is a kind of institution which is having monopolizing the violence, and also he is viewing state as a kind of artificial construct, because state, in his opinion, state is not an organic entity. Organic entity means, are you getting the sense? Organic means that which need to evolve automatically, okay, not to be created. So society generally seem to be naturally evolved out of the necessity of human being. But while coming to the context of the origin of the state, it has all largely been viewed as a kind of artificial construct, and social contract theory also subscribing to that viewpoint, though there is a kind of organic view of the state. But for Gandhi, that it is a kind of soulless machine, and here that the individual is endowed with the dharma that encompasses both satya and ahimsa, and it is therefore the paramount duty of the individual that to operate it or to functionalize it on the basis of moral principle. Okay, so here every citizen renders himself responsible for the act of the government, and here that as per the civil disobedience context is concerned, because here by going for the civil disobedience, he was actually questioning the role of the state in violating uh, or in taking away the basic conditions of living livelihood opportunities from the individual. So here he views civil disobedience becomes a sacred duty when the state becomes lawless. Okay, like you could say that here it is also completely standing that the idea of or antithetical to the idea of absolute sovereign conceptualization of the state. So he offered the understanding that civil disobedience need to be there, and it becomes necessary, or it could be a sacred duty when the state becomes lawless, and where the state becomes corrupt, and a citizen who batters with such a state shares its corruption and lawlessness. So, describing civil disobedience as a moral right of every individual, he called it a birthright that cannot be surrendered without losing self respect. Okay, so the existence of injustice justifies political resistance and political protest. So they are basically moral. So, so resistance, of course, he talked about the peaceful resistance. He condemned the violent resistance, and peaceful resistance is the only way that by following the principle of Satya and Ahimsa, that one could be able to bring positive changes in the society. And a satyagrahi cooperates not out of the fear of punishment with the system, but because cooperation is necessary for common good. And civil disobedience is based on profound respect for law and is sorted to publicly and non-violently. So Gandhi here differed from uh, throughout in stressing on strict non-violence, and in his conception that has usually been accepted in recent discussion in civil disobedience. So, like, take an example, like suppose that under like we do also have legal provision that how protests need to be conducted. So if some employees association, if some group of people, they are aggrieved by the government action, so there we come across many instances that they do use protest as a mechanism in condemning or in registering the action of the state. So, but here is the point is that how state is viewing such kind of protest activity. Okay, so sometimes it is such activities are considered to be the anti-system, but for Gandhian understanding that the presence of civil disobedience in the form of peaceful resistance is necessary, and here it is a kind of sacred uh, duty in order to reform the state, because state what Gandhi assumed that what Gandhi is taking positioning that state was not in a condition of reforming itself. So therefore that it is the duty of the individual to reform in the not just to himself or herself or the community, but at the same time to reform the state as well. And non-cooperation with evil is also as much a duty as is cooperation with the good. Okay. So, but in the past, non-cooperation only has been deliberately expressed in violence to the evil doer, and that violent non-cooperation only multiplies evil, and that evil can only be sustained by violence. Withdrawal or support of evil requires complete abstention from violence. So Gandhi was a believer in the empire, and even wanted Indians to take up arms to defend the empire. He considered it his duty to enlist Indians in the army on the grounds that there could be no friendship between the brave and effeminate people, that Indians were cowardly, and that if Indians wanted to become free from uh, reapproach, then we ought to learn the use of arms. But only later that, on that, Gandhi became convinced of the efficacy of non-violence, as is clear from his disposition before the Disorder Inquiry Committee. Okay, so it is all about that how the experience. has enriched or informed him that the strength of the non-violence or non-violent satyagraha. So here all about that the fight for Swaraj means not mere political awakening, but an all ground out, you could say, opening in the front of social, educational, moral, economic, and political. Okay, so what I started with the concern that one could not be able to explain maybe the political ideals or political concept which generally referred in the political science textbook without adhering to the key idea of Swaraj. So one fundamentally need to begin with the very concept of Swaraj and how actually Gandhi shaped the theoretical contribution towards it. However, he had not claimed that he was a theoretician. Rather, he claimed himself as an activist and as a practitioner, the practitioner of those values which through which actually we are generating all these kind of ideas and theories. And we do believe that it could provide a kind of autonomous status to Indian political theory. Okay, so with this, I am ending over here. If you do have any question, so you please ask. In the next class, we'll go for that issues with that industrialization, capitalism, how actually a kind of capitalist society has been viewed by the Gandhi, then the part of the conflict and cooperation. Okay, anything you want to say? Hello. So you don't have any queries? Okay then. So we'll meet tomorrow. Please join in time, okay? Are you all there?
Yes, ma'am.
ତ ତେଣୁ ଟାଇମରେ ଜଏନ୍ କର ତ ମୁଁ ଜଏନ୍ କରିଦେଉଛି ବାଇ 5 କିନ୍ତୁ ତମମାନେ 10 ମିନିଟ୍ 15 ମିନିଟ୍ କି ଅଧଘଣ୍ଟେ ପରେ ଜଏନ୍ କରୁଛ।
ଡ୍ୟୁଟିରୁ ଆସିଲା ବେଳକୁ ଲେଟ୍ ହେଉଛି ତ ସେଥିପାଇଁ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା, ଠିକ ଅଛି ତାହେଲେ ଆମେ ପୁଣି କାଲି ଦେଖା ହବା। ଠିକ ଅଛି।